If you walk out your front door right now and ask the first 10 people you see what the secret to building wealth is, they will all tell you the exact same thing. They will look at you with total confidence and recite a script they have been fed since childhood. They will tell you to go to college, get a safe job with benefits, buy a house, save 10% of your income, carefully cut out your daily coffee, and wait patiently until you are 65 years old to finally enjoy your life. That is the script. It sounds logical, it sounds responsible, and it is the exact reason why the global middle class is currently experiencing the greatest destruction of wealth in modern human history. Let me be brutally honest with you right from the start. That traditional, popular financial advice was designed for an economic system that completely died in the 1990s. Following those rules today in the modern, hyperinflationary digital economy is the financial equivalent of trying to navigate a modern highway using a map drawn in the Middle Ages. You are not just going to get lost. You are going to get destroyed. The people who are quietly aggregating massive amounts of wealth right now understand a very dark truth about the system. They understand that if financial advice is universally popular, and if it is accepted by the masses, it is almost certainly a trap designed to keep you broke, compliant, and working forever. The wealthy play by a completely different set of rules. An invisible playbook that sounds insane to the average person. But before we rip the curtain back and brutally destroy the first popular lie you have been sold, I need to know exactly who is waking up to this reality right now. Drop a comment below and tell me exactly what city and country you are watching from. We are building a hyper-focused, global community of people who refuse to play the rigged game, and I want to see how far this message is reaching. If you are dead serious about breaking out of the matrix of bad financial advice and taking absolute control of your future, hit that subscribe button right now and brutally smash the notification bell. You cannot afford to miss the strategies we are mapping out here. Now let us tear down the ultimate sacred cow of personal finance. The very first tip you enthusiastically need to stop listening to is the idea that completely cutting out small luxuries, like your $5 daily coffee, is the secret path to becoming a millionaire. Financial gurus absolutely love repeating this to guilt-trip the middle class. They show you a spreadsheet claiming that if you took that $5 a day and invested it into an index fund for 50 straight years, it would magically compound into a mountain of gold. On paper, the math technically works. But in reality, it is a psychological poison. When you obsess over saving $5, you are aggressively training your brain to operate from a position of deep, terrifying scarcity. You are turning your entire life into a defensive posture. The stark reality is that nobody in the entire history of capitalism ever shrank their way to incredible wealth. The people who actually get rich focus all of their mental computational power on playing offense. While the average person is agonizing over a $5 latte, the wealthy are figuring out how to increase their income by $5,000 a month. There is a rigid mathematical limit to how much money you can physically save. You can only cut your budget down to zero. But there is absolutely no limit to how much you can earn. The gurus tell you to cut out the coffee because it is easy advice to digest, but it fundamentally distracts you from the real problem, which is your lack of scalable income. This toxic defensive mindset strings directly into the second catastrophic lie. The bedrock principle that you must save 10% of your income in a traditional savings account. Decades ago, this made perfect sense. Bank accounts paid meaningful interest rates that actually outpaced the rising cost of goods. But today, saving fiat currency is the equivalent of trying to carry water across a desert in a bucket absolutely riddled with holes. When central banks print trillions of dollars out of thin air, your money loses its purchasing power by the second. If the true rate of inflation is running at 5 or 6%, and your bank is graciously paying you 1%, you are silently bleeding wealth. To save money today is to guarantee a loss. The wealthy do not stockpile cash. They view cash purely as ammunition. A temporary liability that must be immediately exchanged and deployed into hard, cash-flowing assets that rise alongside, or faster than, the destructive wave of inflation. If your money is just sitting there, it is slowly dying. But perhaps you think you are safe because you do not carry any bad debt, perfectly following the third most popular tip: always pay for everything in cash. Debt is universally demonized by society. We are told that owing money is a sin and that being completely debt-free is the highest state of financial enlightenment. This is a massive, fundamental misunderstanding of how the financial architecture of the world operates. The rich do not hate debt. They aggressively weaponize it. There is a monumental difference between consumer debt, which you use to buy a depreciating liability like a jet ski or a television on a 20% credit card, and productive debt. Productive debt is when you borrow money at a fixed, low-interest rate and immediately use it to purchase an asset that pays you more than the cost of the loan. Imagine borrowing money at 4% to buy an asset that yields 10%. You are physically printing wealth out of thin air using someone else's money. Furthermore, when inflation hits, it actually devalues your fixed debt. The amount you owe technically shrinks in true purchasing power over time. The middle class trades their precious, hard-earned liquid cash for things. The wealthy borrow cheap money to buy assets and let the inflation completely eat the debt on their behalf. If you refuse to use leverage because you are terrified of debt, you are fighting an uphill battle with one hand tied behind your back. Take a deep breath and let all of that sink in. We have just dismantled the concept of saving your way to wealth. But what about the system itself? What about the established path we are all forced down? This brings us to the fourth trap. The great, untouchable American lie. Go into massive debt to get a college degree because it is your only guaranteed ticket to a stable, lucrative career. For the baby boomer generation, this was an absolute truth. A degree was a rare differentiator. Today, it is an incredibly overpriced, heavily diluted commodity. We have ushered an entire generation into taking on 6 figures of non-dischargeable student loan debt at age 18 to get degrees that the modern marketplace places zero value on. In a rapidly evolving economy where artificial intelligence can write code, draft legal contracts, and solve complex algorithms in seconds, rote memorization and a piece of paper from a university act as a terrible shield. The market only rewards 2 things now: the rare ability to solve very complex, high-level problems, and the ability to sell. If your university path is not directly leading you into highly specialized medical, legal, or extreme technical engineering fields, you are paying a massive premium for a social experience, not a financial investment. And after you get that degree, the system hands you the 5th piece of terrible advice. It tells you to find a good company, climb the corporate ladder, and be fiercely loyal. Corporate loyalty is perhaps the most unrequited love story of the modern century. The days of working for 30 years, getting a gold watch, and receiving a comfortable pension are dead and buried. Companies operate on brutal margins and shareholder demands. The moment your specific role can be outsourced or automated for a fraction of the cost, your loyalty means absolutely nothing. Worse than that, when you rely entirely on a single employer for your sole source of income, you have placed yourself in a highly fragile, dangerous position. You are one bad quarterly review or one corporate merger away from total financial ruin. Instead of blinding themselves with corporate loyalty, the wealthy focus on building multiple streams of income and aggressively acquiring high-income skills so that they are the prize in the marketplace. They do not seek a safe job. They seek unparalleled leverage. Now we must address the 6th point. And knowing human nature, this is the one that might make you incredibly angry. The advice that buying your primary residence is the absolute greatest investment you will ever make. It is deeply emotional. The cultural pressure to own a home is overwhelming. But let us strip away the emotion and look at the brutal, cold mathematics. An asset is something that actively puts money into your pocket every single month without you having to lift a finger. A liability physically removes money from your pocket. When you purchase a primary residence on a 30-year mortgage, you are paying an exorbitant amount of interest to a bank. You are paying high property taxes, relentless maintenance costs, homeowner association fees, and insurance. Every single month, that house is draining your liquid capital. Yes, the property might appreciate in value over 2 decades, but the cash flow is entirely negative. Many wealthy individuals deliberately choose to rent their primary residences. Why? Because renting provides supreme flexibility, predictable fixed costs with zero surprise maintenance bills, and most importantly, it frees up massive amounts of their liquid capital so they can aggressively invest in commercial real estate or businesses that actually produce monthly cash flow. I am not saying you should never buy a house. I am saying you must stop viewing your primary residence as your ultimate financial savior. It is a lifestyle choice. And very often, it is an incredibly expensive liability masquerading in an asset's clothing. And speaking of investing, the 7th completely flawed rule that you hear constantly from every traditional financial planner is that you must wildly diversify your portfolio. Diversification is the supreme strategy for preserving wealth once you've already amassed a fortune. It prevents you from catastrophic loss. But it is an absolutely terrible strategy for attempting to build immense wealth from scratch. When you have a small amount of capital and you sprinkle it across 100 different stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, you are guaranteeing that you will not lose everything. But you are also mathematically cementing the fact that you will never experience massive life-altering gains. You are protecting yourself straight into mediocrity. History shows us that almost all spectacular wealth is created through intense concentration. It is built by finding 1 or 2 asymmetric opportunities, thoroughly understanding them better than anyone else, and concentrating your capital heavily into them. You go deep, not wide. Diversification is frequently just a sophisticated hedge against your own ignorance. If you do not know what you are doing, by all means, diversify. But if you want to accelerate your wealth, you must learn how to concentrate your bets with extreme conviction. Let's pause. We are ripping up the foundations of everything you have been taught about money. It feels deeply uncomfortable, doesn't it? That discomfort is your brain fighting against decades of societal conditioning. But we have to push through it. Because the 8th piece of popular advice might be the most insidious. It is the concept of working hard, keeping your head down, and believing the money will eventually follow your effort. We deeply romanticize hard, grueling work. But capitalism is utterly blind to your physical effort. The market does not care if you sweat blood for 14 hours a day, swinging a hammer in the hot sun. It only cares about the rare and irreplaceable value you bring to the table. If your income is entirely tied to the sheer number of hours you can remain awake and working, you are trapped in a miserable linear equation. There are exactly 24 hours in a day, meaning there is a hard physical ceiling on your gross earning potential. The only way to break the linear trap is to completely disconnect your time from your income. You must build leverage. Code is leverage. Capital is leverage. Media is leverage. A software developer writes a program one time, and it scales to millions of users while they are sleeping. A content creator makes a video once, and it generates ad revenue for 5 years. They are not working millions of times harder than the construction worker. They simply applied massive leverage. Hard work is the baseline requirement just to survive. But leverage is the only mechanism that produces real wealth. This directly destroys the 9th piece of common wisdom, the idea that you should pay off all your low-interest debt immediately because it feels good emotionally. Many people receive a sudden bonus or inheritance and immediately use it to completely pay off a 3% fixed mortgage, just to claim they are entirely debt-free. Emotionally, it feels like a tremendous victory. Mathematically, it is a devastating surrender of capital. If you take $200,000 of liquid cash and trap it inside the walls of your home to save 3% in interest, you have effectively killed that capital. That exact same $200,000 could have been deployed into an index fund yielding 8%, or a private business yielding 20%. By paying off the cheap debt, you surrendered the gap between the 3% you were paying and the 20% you could have been earning. You made the bank very happy, and you significantly slowed down your own velocity of wealth. The wealthy drag out cheap, long-term debt for as long as humanly possible, using the borrowed money to enrich themselves instead. And finally, we arrive at the 10th most destructive advice ever sold to humanity. The grand illusion of traditional retirement. The idea that you must endure 40 years of a miserable, soul-crushing job, carefully hoarding your pennies, also you can finally start living your life when you hit 65. This is the ultimate scam. First of all, nobody is guaranteed tomorrow, let alone 40 years from now. You are trading the absolute peak years of your physical health and energy for a vague promise of freedom when your body is inevitably breaking down. Secondly, with the aggressive compounding of modern inflation and the catastrophic looming collapse of government pension systems worldwide, the amount of money you think you need to retire comfortably at 65 is a fraction of what things will actually cost. The system is designed to keep you on the treadmill until you expire. The new paradigm of wealth is not about retiring at 65. It is about aggressively building enough cash-flowing leverage right now so that you achieve absolute time freedom today. It is about buying back your Monday mornings. It is about having the ultimate supreme power to walk away from toxic situations, toxic bosses, and toxic environments on your own terms without asking for anyone's permission. Wealth is not a luxury car. Wealth is the complete, uncompromising control over your own calendar. The financial rules you were taught are not just mildly outdated. They are actively working against your survival. So, having heard the brutal truth, I leave you with one very dark, intriguing question. Look at your bank account right now. Look at your daily routine. Does the life you are living actually reflect your own deep ambitions? Or does it merely reflect your blind obedience to the terrible, popular advice fed to you by a society that wants you poor? If this hit you hard today, and if you realize you need to fundamentally rewire your financial brain, hit the like button right now to push this algorithm deep into the matrix. Make sure you are subscribed, because we are dropping the blueprint to navigate this chaos next week. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching until the very end. The shift is coming, and I will see you in the next one.